Welcome to today's lesson. In this video, we're going to learn 25 of the most common Spanish nouns every beginner should know. For each noun, I'll show you the English meaning, and you'll also hear two simple example sentences in Spanish to help you understand how the word is used in real life. Listen, repeat, and try to follow along with the pronunciation. By the end of this video, you'll recognize some of the most useful words in everyday Spanish conversations. Let's begin. The first word is el tiempo. El tiempo. And it means time or weather. El tiempo means time or weather. Let's look at an example. No tengo tiempo, which means I don't have time. Let's look at another example. El tiempo está frío, which means the weather is cold. The next word is la persona. La persona. And it means person. La persona means person. Let's look at an example. Esa persona es mi amiga, which means that person is my friend. Let's look at another example. Una persona llama a la puerta, which means a person knocks at the door. The next word is el año. El año. And it means year. El año means year. Let's look at an example. Este año estudio español, which means this year I study Spanish. Let's look at another example. El año empieza en enero, which means the year starts in January. The next word is el día. El día. And it means day. El día means day. Let's look at an example. Hoy es un buen día, which means today is a good day. Let's look at another example. El día es muy largo, which means the day is very long. The next word is la cosa. La cosa. And it means thing. La cosa means thing. Let's look at an example. Esa cosa es nueva, which means that thing is new. Let's look at another example. No veo la cosa, which means I don't see the thing. The next word is el hombre. El hombre. And it means man. El hombre means man. Let's look at an example. El hombre trabaja, which means the man works. Let's look at another example. El hombre bebe agua, which means the man drinks water. The next word is la mujer. La mujer. And it means woman. La mujer means woman. Let's look at an example. La mujer canta, which means the woman sings. Let's look at another example. La mujer corre rápido, which means the woman runs fast. The next word is la vida. La vida. And it means life. La vida means life. Let's look at an example. La vida es bonita, which means life is beautiful. Let's look at another example. La vida cambia, which means life changes. The next word is el momento. El momento. And it means moment. El momento means moment. Let's look at an example. Es un buen momento, which means it's a good moment. Let's look at another example. Un momento, por favor, which means one moment, please. The next word is el mundo. El mundo. and it means world. El mundo means world. Let's look at an example. El mundo es grande, which means the world is big. Let's look at another example. Viajo por el mundo, which means I travel around the world. The next word is la parte. La parte, and it means part. La parte means part. Let's look at an example. Esta es mi parte, which means this is my part. Let's look at another example. La parte final es difícil, which means the final part is difficult. The next word is el niño. El niño, and it means boy. El niño means boy. Let's look at an example. El niño juega, which means the boy plays. Let's look at another example. El niño come pan, which means the boy eats bread. The next word is la niña. La niña, and it means girl. La niña means girl. Let's look at an example. La niña lee un libro, which means the girl reads a book. Let's look at another example. La niña duerme, which means the girl sleeps. The next word is la mano. La mano, and it means hand. La mano means hand. Let's look at an example. Tengo la mano fría, which means my hand is cold. Let's look at another example. Levanto la mano, which means I raise my hand. The next word is el trabajo. El trabajo, and it means work or job. El trabajo means work or job. Let's look at an example. Tengo trabajo hoy, which means I have work today. Let's look at another example. El trabajo es fácil, which means the job is easy. The next word is la palabra. La palabra, and it means word. La palabra means word. Let's look at an example. No entiendo la palabra, which means I don't understand the word. Let's look at another example. Aprendo una palabra nueva, which means I learn a new word. The next word is el lugar. El lugar, and it means place. El lugar means place. Let's look at an example. Este lugar es bonito, which means this place is beautiful. Let's look at another example. Busco un lugar tranquilo, which means I look for a quiet place. The next word is el caso. El caso, and it means case or situation. El caso means case or situation. Let's look at an example. En este caso es mejor esperar, which means in this case it's better to wait. Let's look at another example. El caso es simple, which means the case is simple. The next word is la semana. La semana, and it means week. La semana means week. Let's look at an example. La semana empieza hoy, which means the week starts today. Let's look at another example. Tengo una semana libre, which means I have one free week. The next word is el país. El país, and it means country. El país means country. Let's look at an example. España es un país bonito, which means Spain is a beautiful country. Let's look at another example. Vivo en un país pequeño, which means I live in a small country. The next word is la hora. La hora, and it means hour or time. La hora means hour or time. Let's look at an example. ¿Qué hora es? Which means, what time is it? Let's look at another example. Es la hora de dormir, which means it is time to sleep. The next word is el punto. El punto, and it means point. El punto means point. Let's look at an example. Ese es el punto final, which means that is the final point. Let's look at another example. No veo el punto, which means I don't see the point. The next word is la familia. La familia, and it means family. La familia means family. Let's look at an example. Mi familia es grande, which means my family is big. Let's look at another example. Visito a mi familia, which means I visit my family. The next word is el agua. El agua, and it means water. El agua means water. Let's look at an example. Bebo agua, which means I drink water. Let's look at another example. El agua está fría, which means the water is cold. The next word is la escuela. La escuela, and it means school. La escuela means school. Let's look at an example. Voy a la escuela, which means I go to school. Let's look at another example. La escuela es nueva, which means the school is new. Great job today. You have just learned 25 of the most common Spanish nouns for beginners. I hope this video helped you understand and practice new words. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for more Spanish lessons coming soon. See you in the next video.